And we're back.
And we're back. Here we are. This is pretty much our 1 year anniversary episode. That we're talking about Rogue One.
Episode 13 in a sense, you know?
Well, it's episode, 38 or something.
Yeah.
But here we are, a year later, back, lucky for us, by the lake, and where it all started, last summer. And the worlds we have traveled since then.
Yeah,
right?
we've blasted to 13 subscribers. That is, who knew we would have been to get that high?
Who knew such heights?
Yeah.
And, today we're going to talk about Rogue One and, Andor and Star Wars and all that, right?
Yeah. So, Rogue One. As you said, Rogue One kind of, for your generation, kind of got you back into Star Wars after, like, what you feel the mishandling was of the prequel series, you know?
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Right.
Rebooted helped create the idea of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. That you could squeeze something in. And,
right. That there was something right before the beginning of the original movie.
Well, there was even that there was more to the story. You know, you knew the story, but there was actually more to the story. Mm-hmm. Even, more to the story to be told, basically.
Right, like right? The what was required to be what was sacrificed to get these plans to Leia. Like she even said, like so many have sacrificed to get me this information. I think. I can't let it go to waste. And now, Rogue One showed that. It showed, like, all the sacrifices that went into getting these plans, getting the information, all of it. All the deaths, everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it started off as, right?
Right.
Like, that's what it was made of. Like,
right.
It was created to tell the story of... to say that there was more than, there were more heroes basically that got the, that got these plans to Leia, and it was really, the way it ended with Princess Leia and all that was, was really cool, right? Like in other words, there was more to this story that we loved, and here was like the original prequel kind of, and so it's 9 years old now. And I remember it being awesome. Loved it, so much about it, and new characters and some old characters and told things, and yet obviously there's some a few quasi continuity issues from Andor, but and I still liked it, loved watching it, right? And it does fit together. You see people. But you also realize that the way that we're telling stories nowadays, like in the long format, if you've got a really good story and good writers and stuff, is superior
to movies.
To movies. Like two seasons is better than 2 hours.
Yeah, definitely.
To be able to really to get in depth to characters and things like that.
Yeah, like with Rogue One, it feels like every 15 minutes there's a fight. Which, as a movie, that's understandable because it's a Star Wars movie. You want to see the big blasting stuff.
Right.
But it's so strange because coming from Rogue One, where you'd maybe have like 3 fights a season.
Right. Yeah.
Not even. So, like, seeing all of that is kind of like jarring, like, okay. And also, for example, the jokes. Like, characters are, throwing quips and one-liners every, 3 seconds or something. Or, meeting these fantastical characters who are like Force or this and that, versus Rogue One, Andor, which felt more grounded, more human,
and the pacing, you're right, and the pacing is so different, and Rogue One in some ways is almost set up like a mini Star Wars, right? You've got that, like the to be honest, it was kind of hard to watch the flying scenes coming from Andor. You know what I mean? Andor had things going on, and I'm sure there was some fantastical, unbelievable things or whatever.
Definitely.
but at the same time, you know, I felt that they were a little bit trying to squeeze in that kind of like World War II dogfight sensibility into Rogue One, which when I first watched it, I didn't remember that part of it. And I think it's a testament to like how freaking good Andor is, you know,
definitely.
that I feel that way, right? Because I love Rogue One, right? Yeah. Although I didn't necessarily go back and watch it and whatever. But like
Rogue One is a good movie, very good movie. But Rogue One, Andor is like, gee.
Yeah, I almost feel like, you know, I definitely felt like I remember asking somebody at some point, maybe for you guys, whether it was for you or for your brother, like where do you start? You know, how do you get somebody into Star Wars? How do you start them? What do you start them on, or whatever?
Right.
And I definitely feel in some ways that like, I'd almost start them on Andor now. You know, I wouldn't start Star Wars. I mean, you might watch Star Wars and then, I don't know, it's hard to think, but it's so different coming from it. You know what I mean? Like Andor is just such a different kind of pacing.
Yeah.
Than you know.
Andor kind of, to build on your idea of like World War II as a side tangent, World War II and stuff. Yeah, like the beat kind of made me think of like America versus Japan fighting on their like beaches on like Galapagos like islands and stuff, combat.
Well,
with, like,
and the Pacific Air Wars that people know,
that
you know,
kind of stuff.
That kind of dog.
Yeah,
dog.
But yeah, so Andor built the rebellion. Literally, we saw all the sacrifice, all the work, all the people who went into making the rebellion. What caused them to join? Not all of them wanted to in the beginning, but like after seeing what the Empire was doing, the pain, the suffering, the fact that a republic was being replaced with an autocracy. Seeing all these people from different lifestyles, different walks of life coming together, say, we're not standing for this anymore, and words aren't working, so we've got to fight. Mm-hmm. So being able to see in Andor the rebellion being built, people coming together, giving information, people dying in thousands with like the Gorman massacre and stuff, and that getting broadcasted to the outer galaxy to show that the Empire's got their boot on your neck and you're pretending it's not there. And they just killed these people here. You need to fight back. To seeing Rogue One kind of being the result of that.
Rogue One is kind of like the battle starts beginning, right? Because when you think of actual Star Wars the movie, it happens somewhat quick, right? Like there's
weeks basically in between
and they get all that stuff. But
it's seeing Andor over several years with like even counting it down from 4 BBY, 3 B, all that stuff. It's seeing that like the rebellion wasn't built in Rome wasn't built in a day, and certainly not the rebellion, and seeing it happen, you know, all the sacrifices that came into building all the things necessary for our heroes from the Star Wars trilogy to be able to fight the Empire with their motley group of rebels is astonishing.
Right. I think, you know, what I would be interested in, and you know, maybe it's out there and I just haven't seen it, is like a bit of the backstory about how this story
fits in.
Well, not fits in. I get it. Like it's obvious how it fits in. I mean, it fits in so well, right? But I mean, how did they choose this story, right? And it's also different than, let's say, or at least for me, in some ways, than Mandalorian or you know, some of the other ones, which I've liked. You know, I definitely have liked. Like I'm just blanking on her name, but you know, the woman, the female character with the white hair or whatever. Ahsoka, you know, that was a series, like, but this really focuses on the story, kind of, right? It's really focused on telling the beginnings of the rebellion, like the movement from rebels, from people
who are kind of angry,
you know, as the empire changes and becomes an empire and undemocratic or whatever, and you know, that whole thing. And it's just interesting that they chose to really focus on that story, that part of the story, and tell it so well, right? And rather than just like doing it in a single movie like Solo or whatever, right? Like
it's seeing the thousands of people, of money, resources, what have you, to go into building something to fight evil. It's not just one action, it's thousands of people collectively across the galaxy going, no, I'm not dealing with this anymore.
But they tell that story, but what I'm getting at is the people, the writers, the storytellers, the producers of the movie. I think it would be really interesting why they said, okay, here's an important piece of the Star Wars world that hasn't been touched on enough, right? You know, and obviously there's aspects that connect to present day. To obviously it takes stuff, you know, the whole thing there takes stuff from
current,
and Nazi Germany and all that stuff. But I just mean, it's just interesting that they chose to dive into this piece, right? In some ways that it's like, okay, well, Rogue One tells the story of before Star Wars, but it's actually, there's this whole, it actually doesn't. And I wonder if somebody said, well, hey, there's so much more to potentially to pre-Rogue One than we've told, and this is something that we can, you know, tell in depth. And you know, I think that's like the genius behind Rogue One is that they you know, took something that we thought we knew already, right? Like there were snippets about the Empire or whatnot, or you got that feeling, but they really told the transformation of people to like, okay, we've had enough and everything, and you know, whereas Rogue One is there's more, it's more of an action adventure, right? Like Rogue One is like
fight the bad guys, and not build to fight the bad guys. Get armed to fight the bad guys. That's Andor. Which, to circle back on, when I think Andor was first announced to come out, people were kind of confused. Like, why are we focusing on this one guy, one kind of interesting guy, you know, for like a whole series? Like, that's weird. But then seeing it, you're like, whoa, holy cats. They were right to focus on it. And then season 2 was even crazier. Like, it ended at the beginning to the beginning,
right? But you like, and also when you watch Rogue One after Andor, like who's the guy who breathed the gas again? What was his name?
I know who he is. He's Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera. Yeah, he's in Rogue One, and but. He's
only kind of there for like coolness.
Yeah, like and you from Andor you expect him to be so much bigger, kind of. You almost want to like learn his story, right?
Yeah,
like in a way, because he's such an interesting character, and in Andor people are so reverent of him, and even in Rogue One they are. But
Andor, Rogue One kind of does him a disservice because he's, you know, kind of, it feels like he's killed off pretty early on.
Right. Yeah.
When we've seen who he was, how dangerous he was in Andor. Like, he wasn't just like a guy. He was the guy who...
Right. And they talked to him about, oh, he's too dangerous to work with. He's coming back, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's interesting. Definitely, there's also some technical interesting things, right? Where they have these people who, and I guess it doesn't really matter too much anymore now with AI and whatever, but you know, they're telling this linear story, but like anyone that was in Star Wars, let alone, you know, even Rogue One, everyone there was 10 years younger, right? So they had to, you know,
de-age them,
de-age them and bring them through and stuff.
Right. But at the end of Rogue One, we see Leia's original actor de-age significantly.
Right.
And while sadly we don't get to see her in, Andor, it's still nice to think that, like, yeah, she's out there. She is living, breathing. She's, doing all this stuff. And it's...
I think one of the things when I was in the second season of Andor, when I realized where it was going, right? Because in the first season, I watched it. It was really exciting, but I didn't realize that it was going to, like, lead right in to Star Wars and Rogue One and stuff. Because I'd forgotten that Andor was in Rogue One, right? Like, I just forgot who the characters. I sort of remember it, but I started thinking about, like, especially as that information, right, around the Death Star was revealed, right? That she had seen the plans for the Death Star, and that's really what all of this stuff was going on and everything, and so it was all about the Death Star, and it was just interesting. One, because they made the Death Star like
this
it's so much
thing. It wasn't just like, oh, a dangerous tool, secret, hush hush, don't talk about it. It was kill a whole planet to get this coding.
Yeah,
because it's more efficient.
In a way, it was almost like a nuclear weapon or something like that. The invention of the nuclear weapon or something. But just that it became this, like, it just took on a more, like, it was pretty cool, the Death Star in Star Wars, but it took on, like, this
more haunting.
Yeah, haunting.
Like we saw in, for example, the first season, how when Cassian Andor was in that prison, he was building the eye, like, pieces for the eye of the Death Star. And then we saw how, the coding material for the energy providers for the Death Star was being gained from this planet that they had to, like, mine aggressively and destroy the whole planet for. Like, we're killing an entire planet to make a weapon to kill more planets. And it's like, whoa.
Right.
That's crazy.
And kind of the thing that I was trying to get at was that we through that we started to see what it was about. And for me, like, one of the big things was when that got revealed. What I was trying to say was that when it got revealed that it was the Death Star, that was kind of like the big secret. Obviously, there was a transformation to a fascist kind of empire, but that the Death Star, they were trying to keep this thing, massive weapon project, secret, and that became the secret that got discovered.
Right.
But then at some point, so few people knew about it. Right. There was the guy who got killed on the park bench, and then Luthen knew it and passed it to his daughter / assistant. And it's almost like it's this, like, baton of critical information that was getting passed by person to person. And in the end, that's what at the end of Rogue One, that's what gets passed to Leia.
Right.
And then Leia passes it to R2, and then R2 brings it to Luke, and they bring it to Obi-Wan, right? Getting it to Obi-Wan was the key. But it's just interesting. It's this tiny critical piece of information that once you realize what it's all about, that you see it and kind of like the hopes for humanity rest on this tiny little,
this, like, insignificant
thing that gets passed one by one until they finally find someone who can re-energize the Force and
what kind of went into getting that to Luke and blasting. Like, it wasn't just like it wasn't just some people doing their best to get that information. It was the Empire, like, putting as much, like, power as they could into like hunting this one person.
Right. Even the knowledge of it became a death sentence, right? Like,
they were locking down whole chunks of the planet to, like, stop the possibility of one person getting off world.
Right.
And, like, they hunted down Luthen, and when he stabbed himself, they were like, lock down the entire hospital. No one gets in or out to make sure that this one guy who may have told someone else is able to squeal. And that's kind of how it feels for the entire show, for all of it. Like, it's all of these people's sacrifices who at any moment, if something goes wrong, their whole plan can unravel.
And I guess in some ways there's also aspects of where like it's like the truth kind of right. It's got this and even Rogue One, the physical project on Rogue One becomes trying to open up the shield to get the truth of the Death Star out, and these people are like up on this antenna with a like information and all that stuff, right?
They're watching, rebels get slaughtered or slaughtering, what have you, to give these people more time. Every second pulled from clutched from the jaws of defeat, because like they know that if they screw up, there's not going to be a second chance. Right. The Empire is going to find, all like that's what makes it interesting when you think about it. All these people aren't just people who died, they're martyrs, because they died by the countless numbers, some of them never, being remembered, because they needed to die to ensure that this information got out there. They didn't die just because they, they're unimportant. They died to ensure that the rebels had a fighting chance.
Yeah. So it was, it was interesting. And, again, there was that weird retro future, technology, big cases of information. But that's just the way, that's them being true to the kind of that era. The tech that was set, kind of.
Right,
like, this is what tech is and stuff.
It isn't big flashy screens that, show everything. It's knobs and buttons that you've got to turn around. And technology and also music. The music of Andor is just amazing, and it reminds me of like a funeral march. The main themes, we know Cassian's fate, but it's not like a sad, solemn one. It's a hopeful one. It's like I may die, but that doesn't mean you're dead. My death ensures that you guys have a chance to defeat the Empire. Don't let everyone who died die for nothing.
Right. It's also interesting in Rogue One because his wife isn't, or his his wife, I guess, or his partner, or whatever, isn't mentioned, isn't in it at all, right? Because obviously they wrote that in more. There's not really a love interest, but there's this he's a man and
she's a woman.
She's a woman. So they sort of vaguely sort of say, they're hugging each other at the end when the Death Star blows them up or whatever.
Maybe they would have kissed or something, but
but anyways,
it becomes more of like a kindness thing, because we know that Cassian has a partner out there, and what he doesn't know is that she's pregnant. She had a child.
Right. But what I mean what I was going to say is that it shows you how, the problem with a movie with 2 hours or whatever is that they have to rush so many parts of the plot line, together, kind of.
Right.
And maybe when you first watch it, it's
great.
It's okay because you're just there's so much action and you're doing all this stuff. Whereas when you've watched Andor and they've had a chance to develop things, even Saw, it's like, well, hey, how come we didn't learn any more about him? We could have spent a whole 2 episodes on him. Right?
Yeah, when you think about it, there's tons of great reasons why movies are awesome. You don't want to always digest an entire 3-season show. You just sometimes want something quick and easy. But also, when you look at something as great as Andor, you go God, Rogue One would have been even better if it had been a show, because every character could have shined.
Or in a way, it's almost like if they ever decide to remake Star Wars, they should start at the end of Andor. Andor is good. They should remake Rogue One and then through, you know what I mean, and then through Star Wars and all that stuff, just to tie up. Because, for instance, the Force essentially wasn't in Andor.
No, there's barely a hint,
which is fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Because even at Star Wars, it's he goes into the desert and he finds Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan tells him about the Force, and the Force is old Jedis, it's all gone, and all that.
Right.
And so in a way that's there, but in a way in Rogue One, they have that one toss away, may the Force be with you, or whatever, right?
And the only time they said
it's the only time the Force is even said in the whole thing, and now when you watch it from Andor, it's almost like, oh, it's actually kind of weird to be there, right?
Right.
Like they wanted to throw it in because they hadn't mentioned it.
It's kind of weird though,
But
because
at the same time, it's like no one's really talking about it. Yeah. Although there was almost an inkling, right? Like you kind of think of Andor's wife was kind of maybe getting at that maybe he had the Force in him,
right? Like
that right?
like the at the Jedi or the Rebel base,
yeah.
there's that woman who was giving out prophecies,
yeah.
saying like he's unique, he's a messenger. I don't know what, but the Force
maybe
is
it's just
around
that he's
him.
going to be, you know, because like if you watch it now, all these, you know, all the stuff from Andor through the first 3 shows or whatever, and even all in the end, like Luke and all these people are
special,
are heroes and stuff. But you could also like our kids one day might watch and go like, how come Luke never says, "Gosh, Andor was so awesome," you know,
right?
We owe a lot to Andor.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I love Luke. I love all these Star Wars characters because, you know, sometimes in life you want to pretend that you're the hero. You're the awesome lightsaber wielding, force pushing kind of person. You want to be special. But there's also a wonderfulness of being a normal guy without any abilities, but being able to do so much. Like Andor doesn't have any special abilities, but he's smart. He's quick on his feet, and he knows how to do stuff, and he does a lot.
Mm-hmm. And if anything, Andor's arc is even more in a way than like Han Solo's, right? Like
right.
Luke was like innocent, but then he became
the hero, and
he was always sort of the chosen one, whatever. Whereas Andor was in a way almost more like Han Solo, like I'm just. He was just at a place at a time that resulted it in him. I'll do this or whatever, but it's like I'm not gonna sacrifice my life. I want to get out. I want to go, you know, have a quiet life or whatever.
Right.
And but then by the end, he's like, okay, no, we gotta
I have to
do it and kind of do it for Luthen, right? Like he's like, look, he gets it. He understands what they're fighting against and all that.
Right.
And it's you know, it's a good arc. But,
yeah.
So. All in all, Rogue One is great. I think it's honestly it's hard just because Andor was so well written and had so much time to develop things and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's now for me like such the gold standard of this you know, universe.
A lot of people don't always like remakes because it sometimes takes away the magic of the original, and that's totally fair. I understand that for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I kind of now want to see all the movies redone in a show way because, like, then you get to see so much more character development.
If it's good, obviously we're not looking for
remake upon remake upon remake.
Yeah, or goofy TV shows or you know. I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job of all the you know, Mandalorian and stuff. You know, we just got to be careful. Not to
oversaturate with only comedies. It is important to have, you know, once in a while a serious, barely fighting, just a good story that builds that. To me, Andor is the spear, and Rogue One. These movies are at a spear tip because Andor built so much and may not be remembered, but these few characters are able to defeat the bad guys completely because of the sacrifices of so much.
And you know what, in a way it's nice to know actually for all of us in a way, right, that the things you do, you may not feel like they're going to get known, but maybe someday
their effects will
somebody's going to write your biography or write a song about you or something, you know. You
may not be known now, but the actions you do right now will result in the future
doing the right thing, the good thing, you know.
Not backing down, knowing that you may die, but your sacrifice may result in people being free tomorrow and being able to write who you were.
Yeah. So, good movie,
amazing show.
Yeah, amazing show. Hard to let go. Hard act to follow, and definitely hard to let go. So, all right. So what comes next? We just started actually to watch Murderbot. So coming up next episode will be Murderbot,
Yeah.
Certainly, if not the whole season, a big chunk of it. So
yeah.
Keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sending those questions in.
Yeah.
And
stay safe out there.
Stay safe out there. Yeah, until we see you
May
again.
the force be with you all.
May the force be with you all.
Until we meet again.
Until we meet again.